A historic day in Georgia.
There's never been anything like it in our country before.
Former President Donald Trump defiant after surrendering on more than a dozen charges in Fulton County.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong.
Tonight, an image we've never seen before. A mugshot of a former president of the United States. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Tom Haynes. We have team coverage of former President Donald Trump's surrender tonight. Fox 5's Eric Mock joins us live here in studio for a look at why his trial could start in less than 2 months. And Fox 5's Christopher King spoke with demonstrators on both sides of the case. But we'll begin with Fox 5's Randy Travis, who has a look at how this historic night played out. Randy?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, Donald Trump became defendant number 12 to actually surrender here at the Fulton County Jail. He was clearly the most significant, but he was also the quickest. His entire visit to Georgia lasted barely an hour. The 45th President of the United States pulled into the rear entrance to the Fulton County Jail around 7:35 Thursday evening. 20 minutes later, Donald Trump was headed back to Hartsfield-Jackson with a new title, Fulton County Prisoner P01135-809.
You should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election.
The former president didn't just challenge the 2020 election in Georgia. According to the indictment, he repeatedly lied to Georgia officials, urging them to violate their oath of office.
My name is Ruby Freeman.
And he's accused of spreading more lies about Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman, who received so many death threats from Trump supporters, she and her daughter had to go into hiding. Throughout Thursday, crowds jammed into a small area on the Rice Street side of the jail, hoping to catch a glimpse of Trump. But he left the way he came, and the crowd and former president never saw each other.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. And this is one instance, but you have 3 other instances. It's election interference.
This is the 4th criminal case former President Trump now faces. 2 of his co-defendants surrendered earlier in the day. Former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows was released on a $100,000 bond. Harrison Floyd, the Black Voices for Trump activist accused of harassing Ruby Freeman, has no bond set yet. Earlier this year, he was arrested for allegedly attacking an FBI agent. Donald Trump arranged a $200,000 bond before his arrival in Atlanta, allowing him a quick visit to the Fulton County legal system, one that will not be his last. And back live out here at the Fulton County Jail, where the law enforcement presence is, shall we say, diminished. Only one car back there kind of keeping an eye on things. But 7 more defendants have yet to surrender here at the Fulton County Jail. They have until noon tomorrow, including former acting Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Clark. Reporting live from the Fulton County Jail, Randy Travis. Back to you, Tom.
Yeah, quite a contrast, Randy, to what was behind you earlier today there at the Fulton County Jail. Randy Travis, thanks. The former president could be back in Fulton County on September the 6th for an arraignment, according to a schedule filed by the DA, Fonnie Willis, today. He could choose to waive that hearing. In the meantime, the former president's cash bond agreement has several stipulations. It bans him from using social media to target his co-defendants, witnesses, and the 30 unindicted co-conspirators. That may be challenging for former President Trump. He has been active on social media leading up to his surrender. He's made several claims about violent crime in Atlanta. In a post this afternoon, he claimed, quote, "Murder and other violent crimes have reached levels never seen before." Well, Fox 5 crunched the numbers to see if that's the case. Atlanta police data shows violent crime is actually down more than 20% compared to this time last year. Homicides are down by 26% during that same time. Speaking of social media, for the very first time since the January 6th insurrection, Trump posted on X, the site formerly known as Twitter. He posted a link to his mugshot with the caption, "Election interference, never surrender," with a link back to his website, donaldjtrump.com, where he's asking for campaign donations. Well, protesters and supporters lined the streets throughout the day leading up to the former president's surrender. Fox 5's Christopher King is live at the Fulton County Jail, where he spoke with people both for and against the former president. Christopher?
That's right, Tom. We've seen supporters of the former president. We've seen critics of the former president. Both sides came out to watch history unfold. Now, protesters both for and against former President Donald Trump braved withering heat and humidity and squeezed into a confined area along the streets outside the Fulton County Jail. Some carried signs blasting the former commander-in-chief. Many more carried signs praising him. Former President Trump faces state racketeering charges in connection with efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. DA Fani Willis accuses the former president of heading, quote, a criminal enterprise to try to overturn the vote here in Georgia. We speak with demonstrators on both sides about the enormity of a former president turning himself in. Here's what they say.
He has his time in court. You know, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, so all the evidence will be shown in court if it even gets to that point, and he'll be able to prove his innocence.
He should go to prison, I think. Why? Because he violated not just the law, but he violated our kind of core tenets of democracy in a way that's, if we don't punish it, it's going to happen again.
Now, supporters still believe the former president won the 2020 election. This, even though his own attorney general said accusations of election fraud are wrong. Protesters were very passionate, but they were peaceful. Now, the former president got in and out of the jail relatively quickly, so anybody who came here to this main entrance didn't get to see much. We're live at the Fulton County Jail. Christopher King, Fox 5 News.
Still, it was quite a show out there today. All right, Christopher, thanks. This is the fourth indictment for former President Donald Trump this year. A Manhattan DA indicted the former president on falsifying business records, charges in March. That case is in connection to hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016. Then in June, a federal grand jury indicted Mr. Trump for taking classified documents from the White House. Earlier this month, another federal grand jury indicted the former president in connection with his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. This story just beginning to unfold. Fox 5 Atlanta will continue keeping you up to date as defendants turn themselves in, arraignments happen, and possible trials get underway. Fox 5 will keep you up to date both here on air and online and on our website, fox5atlanta.com, plus the Fox 5 News app. Make sure you get push notifications turned on so you don't miss any developments.